Hi everyone, Marie here from the English Kitchen. Welcome to my channel, Marie Cooks Up a New Life. It's a kind of an overcast day out there today, a little bit humid, but I wanted to share a new recipe with you today, something that I think you'll enjoy. It's a very popular recipe on the blog and something that I have been making for a very long time. My mother's pancakes, Mom's pancake recipe. When I was growing up, pancakes weren't something that we had very often. We would have them pancake day. Mom would make them for supper, and that was basically the only time of the year that we had them. When my children were growing up, I used to make them quite often, usually on the weekends, and always when they had a friend to stay overnight. They loved pancakes. My brother-in-law, Ewan, he made beautiful buttermilk pancakes, and we loved to go and visit him and his wife Micheline, and he would always make buttermilk pancakes for breakfast, and he would serve them with peaches and maple syrup. They were just lovely. Well, this is not a fancy recipe. It's just a basic pancake recipe, but I can promise you it's an excellent recipe. This one works every time. You get lovely, light, fluffy pancakes, and I'm going to make them for you. So without further ado, I'm going to tilt you down to my countertop, and away we'll go. I've been heating my pan up ahead of time today so that we don't have to wait for it to warm up. What you'll need for this recipe is 2 cups of plain all-purpose flour. In grams, that would be 280 grams. And to this, you'll want to add 2 tablespoons of sugar, 4 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So you just whisk those together in your bowl. That's the dry ingredients. Now for the wet ingredients, you'll want 1 3/4 cups of milk. I like to use whole milk. That's me. You can use semi-skimmed if you would prefer, but for me, it's always whole milk. And to that, you'll want to add 2 large eggs. I use free-range eggs. That's just a personal choice. I don't like the idea of using caged hen eggs. I had the experience of working in a hen house very briefly when I was a young woman, and it was really appalling. Of course, people were different back then than what they are today, but still, I would never use caged hens eggs. But that's just a personal preference. You go ahead and use whichever eggs you want. And to that, you'll want to add 2 tablespoons of melted butter or vegetable oil. Today I'm using vegetable oil. And actually, I use light olive oil. I don't use the extra virgin because I think that's a waste to use it in cooking unless you're making something where you really want the flavor of the olive oil to shine through. For this purpose, and for other cooking purposes, I just use light olive oil, which is olive oil. It's just lighter in color and flavor. So you want to mix those together. Let me get these things out of the way here so I have more room. So mix these together, your liquid ingredients. Now, my bowl of dry ingredients, I'm going to make a well in the center, like so. Can you see that? I don't think you can. Let's see. Okay, I've made a well in the center, and I'm going to pour my liquid ingredients into the center of that well. And then I'm going to start mixing them together until they're combined. It's okay to have lumps in your pancake mix. You don't want to overmix it, but you do want it to be sort of smooth at the same time. What you're looking for is a batter that's fairly smooth and thick, but pourable. So just stirring these things together. Oh, we loved these pancakes when we were children. My mother had an old wherever aluminum set of pots and pans, and it came with a great big round flat griddle pan, and it had a little rim around it, and that's what she used to make her pancakes on. That was always a good day for us when Mom was making pancakes. My sister still has that set. That's the big roasting tin, is the one that we make our turkey in every Christmas. I mean, that set was bought before I was born, and I'm 69 years old now, having had my birthday last week, and it's still in use. So, what can you say? That really was wherever. I do believe this is a little bit thick today, so I'm going to add a tiny bit more milk. I've got my milk out over here. So we'll just add a tiny bit. Play it by ear. This is the last week of August. I don't know how that happened. The kids will soon be going back to school. The leaves are already starting to change a bit where I live. Okay. Maybe a little bit more. You don't want the batter too thin, but you don't want it too thick either. So I'm just going to add a touch more, and that should be perfect. I'm not sure why on certain days batters seem to take a little bit more or need a little bit more milk than on others, but today's one of those days. See, that pours just nicely. Now, what I have here is my nonstick skillet. I've got it set over medium heat, and let me wipe my hands here. I've got it set over medium heat, and I'm just going to butter it with a little bit of butter. I've got my stick of butter here, and I just see that the butter's foaming immediately, so I know my pan's hot. I'm going to use a 1/4 cup measure to scoop out my pancake batter. I find that's generally quite sufficient. So I'm going to drop 3 little dobs here in my warm skillet. I find that if you try to do any more than that, they tend to stick together. And this is the right size for me. You can make your pancakes as big or as small as you want, but this is what works for me. So there they are in the pan, baking away. You want to preheat this skillet over a medium heat and then add just a touch of butter. You could use cooking spray if you want. I personally happen to like butter. I'm going to get a plate now to put the finished pancakes on. Pardon me while I do that. You're going to just cook these over medium heat until you start to see bubbles showing up in the surface of the unbaked portion of the pancake. I'm starting to see those bubbles now, just the odd one. It'll take a few minutes longer, I'm sure. So did you do anything special this summer? Take any special holidays or vacations? I took a staycation. It's a fancy way of saying I stayed home and just did things around here. I think my traveling days are over for now anyways. I did enough traveling over the last few years to last me 10 lifetimes. I did used to love to travel when I lived in the UK. We used to go all sorts of places, Scotland, Wales. Of course, I lived right on the border of Wales. We went over to the continent, which is what they call Europe over there, many times. We used to like to go to France, and I've been to Belgium, Germany. We went to Germany several times, and we went to Austria. Now that was a lovely trip. We went on a coach trip to Austria. It was called the Sound of Music tour, and we traveled around, I suppose you'd call it Western Austria, right on the German border, to Salzburg, which is where the film was made, and we got to see all of the sights from that movie. It was very interesting and a lot of fun, and I loved the food. What else is new? I love the food wherever I go. So you're going to cook these until the surfaces are covered with light little bubbles. I'm not sure if I can show you on here. But little bubbles will start to pop up, and they'll be golden brown on the bottom, and they'll be almost dry looking on the top. Now they are golden brown on the bottom, so I am going to flip them. Don't be in too much of a rush. Look at that, perfect. If you're in too much of a rush and you have your pan turned up too high, you risk your pancakes being raw in the center. Oops. I'll have to flip that one again after. Not very good at this flipping, am I? Probably because you're watching me. That's usually what happens. It's like the child who catches the ball 50 times, and the minute he asks his father to watch, he drops it. That's me. You'll see that they're puffing up here. It should not take actually too long if you've waited properly when you've done the first side. It shouldn't take too long to do the second side. They're puffing up. You'll note when they're done, they'll look dry around the edges. I've got my daughter coming tomorrow to stay overnight with me, and I thought it would be nice to make some pancakes ahead of time, and that way in the morning, if she wants a quick breakfast, I can have these in the fridge and she can just take them out and warm them up either in the toaster or in the microwave. Homemade pancakes, to me, are a bit of a celebration. And when my daughter comes to stay, excuse me, when my daughter comes to stay with me, that's always a cause for celebration. No, not quite ready yet. As I said, these are very simple pancakes. They're nothing fancy. They're simple, but they're good. You can fancy them up if you want, and I'm going to do some more here in a minute. I'm going to add some blueberries to them. We were just coming to the end of wild blueberry season here in Nova Scotia. And it would be a shame to make pancakes and not use some of the wild blueberries. I picked some up the other day at our local farm market. No, see, I'm being too anxious here. Too wanting to get on the road here. Not wanting you to be bored watching the pancakes cook. Anyways, I hope you enjoy my videos. I try to be as real with you as I can. I don't want to be artificial. I just want you to see me as I am, in my home as it is, doing the things that I like to do and that I think you might enjoy. No frills. I'm not a really fancy person. I have worked for fancy people, but I'm not a fancy person myself. And in my own life, I like to keep things pretty simple. There, let me just show you that. You really only need to flip them once. But here's what it will look on the underside. So this batch is done. See how nice and, I'll show you. It's nice and fluffy, those are. Fluffy, golden brown on top, golden brown on the bottom. So I'm going to put some butter on my pan again. Re-butter it. As I said, you can use cooking spray, but I love the flavor that butter gives. It's a bit hot. Anyway, so we go again. Pancakes in the UK are quite different from pancakes in North America. They tend to be more like crepes and are very thin, and the British like to eat them with a sprinkling of sugar and some lemon juice squirted over top, and then they roll them up, and they are really lovely. You'll find in the grocery stores over there around Pancake Day, which is Shrove Tuesday in February, the stores are full of things that people need to make pancakes. Now this bunch, I thought I'm going to add some blueberries to the top. Not a lot, just a few. And these are frozen blueberries. As I said, I picked them up the other day at the farm market local to me, and they weren't cheap. I paid $19 for a kilogram of these berries, but I hope to enjoy them over the winter months. There's nothing so sweet and delicious as a wild blueberry. So again, pancakes in the UK, sorry if I'm disjointed here, they're much thinner and served with lemon and sugar. And originally they were served on Shrove Tuesday, and it was a way for people to get rid of their eggs and butter and flour and things before Lent started. Many people would have given up things like that for Lent, and this was a way of using those things up. So again, we're only going to cook them until they're golden brown on the bottom and bubbles start to appear on the surface, and it should be somewhat dry. You don't have to add blueberries to these. You can leave them plain. I'll tell you a few other things that are nice. Chocolate chips. Chocolate chips are very nice. Diced apple. That's very nice. Raisins. Sometimes my children used to like raisins. Raisins and nuts. It's all dependent on your own personal taste and what it is that you enjoy in your pancakes. Most of the time I like them just plain with some butter and maple syrup, but occasionally I like them with a few other things added, such as wild blueberries. We used to go blueberry picking when I was a child. Blueberries are something that grow abundantly in the province that I live in, and my mother used to send us out in August to pick wild blueberries. My father loved blueberry pie. Mom didn't really make blueberry pancakes or blueberry muffins or blueberry cakes, but my dad did love blueberry pie. And so Mom would send us out with great big, well, they seemed huge to us, ice cream buckets. And we would have the task of picking these wild blueberries. And it was hot because it was August and the sun would be beating down, and we'd be crouching low on the ground because wild blueberries grow very close to the ground, and you sort of have to crouch down to pick them. And they're also very small, so it takes a long time to fill a bucket with them. Anyhow, we used to do that, and learned very quickly not to eat them as you were picking them, because that meant you were going to have to be out there longer and working longer. Let's see how these are doing. A little bit longer. I remember my mother used to get quite irate. We had a lot of wild blueberries that were growing in the field behind her house, and she used to get quite irate if she saw somebody else out there picking her blueberries. I guess I don't blame her in a way. It was her property. Okay, let me see if I can flip them this time without messing up. There we go, there's one. I really probably should have a longer spatula for this, but this is what I have. There's 2 and 3. Another thing that I used to dislike about blueberry picking was bears. There's a lot of black bears here in the province, and they happen to like blueberries just as much as we do, maybe even more. And of course, this time of year, they are busy fattening themselves up for their winter sleep. And I can remember being berry picking one time with well, I guess it was my Aunt Frida and her friend Priscilla. They had taken us to show us their secret special, my fingers are purple from the blueberries, to see their special blueberry picking spot. And it was down below Paradise on one of the back roads. And my parents had been talking about bears and things. And we were out there in the brush picking berries. And I remember being very worried that some bears were going to show up. And my father got behind a bush and started growling. Well, he scared me so badly that I dropped all the blueberries that I had picked. All that work that I had done was for nothing because they were all on the ground. That dad of mine, he's such a kidder. Anyways, it was his loss because we lost those berries, and there might have been enough to make a pie. He calls blueberry pie bear pie. And it's his favorite kind of pie. I didn't really like blueberry pie when I was a child, not that much. Funny how that goes. When I first moved over to the UK in the year 2000, it was very difficult to find blueberries. They're quite common now. You can see them in all the grocery shops. They're bringing them in from Peru and Eastern Europe and all these places. And I do believe they do grow a few in the UK. They might even grow wild, but I think they call them bilberries or something like that. Anyways, when I first went over there, you couldn't find blueberries, and that's when I learned to miss them. There's nothing like not being able to get something to make you miss it. It's funny the things that I missed when I first moved over there. Things like Kraft dinner. Now who would miss that? Really? It's such a junk food, but I missed Kraft dinner. I also missed Velveeta cheese. You know, just stupid little things. They had the best cheese in the world, and here I was craving, see that? It's getting brown. Craving processed cheese. They do have processed cheese slices over there, but they're not, I don't know. I don't think they're quite as good as the ones over here. But then I am a little bit biased, aren't I? These are almost done. I'm not going to cook the whole batch while you're watching me. I'm just going to cook some of them. Like I said, they're done when the pancake itself looks a little bit dry on the edges, and they're golden brown on the bottom, and those are the blueberry ones. So let me turn this off here. I'm going to set this aside because I'll cook the rest of that after you're gone. Let me get these out of my pan. And I'm going to serve up a few. I've got a plate here and a lovely fork and knife, some maple syrup. I'm going to have one plain one. Oh, I hate the blue from those blueberries on my fingers. And one blueberry one. Now I like to enjoy my pancakes with a little bit pat of butter on top. So I'm going to butter them. The butter will melt much quicker on that one because it's just come off the little bit of butter, and a smidge of maple syrup. You can use whatever you want, whatever kind of syrup you like. But I like maple syrup because I'm a purist and I'm Canadian, and Canadians love their maple syrup. Now I'm going to just cut this open so you can see how lovely and fluffy they are inside. I don't know if you can see that really well or not. Beautifully nice and fluffy. This really is the best pancake recipe. You don't need anything fancy when you're making pancakes. Just a few simple ingredients and a simple cooking method, and you're well on your way. Let me taste this. Now that is one good pancake. Anyhow, I'll tilt you back up here. Here we are again. And that's my recipe for this week, or for today anyways. I hope to do another one before the week is through, but we'll see. It all depends on time. Anyhow, so there you have it. Mom's pancakes. Mom's famous pancakes. Excuse me, famous in my family at least. Anyway, I hope that you've enjoyed this video. I hope that you'll give these pancakes a go. And if you're new here, I hope you come back again. If you've been here before, thank you for coming again. If you did like this video, please give me a thumbs up. My purple thumb. If you haven't subscribed already, do subscribe and leave a comment. I really love to hear what you have to say. Any input, suggestions for things you'd like for me to cook in the future. Anything really, but do be kind. I'm new at this and I'm still learning. And I'm, as they say, I'm dancing as fast as I can. Anyhow, in the meantime, I will shut this off now and I'll bid you a good day and tell you, don't forget that God loves you and I love you too. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.